Jesse, I'm more excited that he's figured it out, because now he's going to start building too, Mike, and he's been in this arena of recruiting salespeople for a long time, and he's really good at it. So for me, it's I wanted him to learn how to sell. I wanted him to learn how to sell super fast, because I knew once he figured the selling out, he would get to the recruiting, and when he does that, I think it's going to be a big benefit for all of us, because there's a lot of things these companies do that we don't do. We didn't know to do it. We didn't care to do it, but it all works. So, Jesse, I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. I'm excited for you. But what were you going to say, Mike?
Frank, here's one thing before he comes on. I just want to explain who he is and why he's having success over most people. At the beginning, when he's stumbling and struggling, right? Like everyone does, man. Everyone goes through the same thing. He was offered a job of $250,000, and I'm not going to ask for people to raise their hands, but how many people would rather take that job making $250,000 and would quit and say, I'm not going to do this? Where Jesse said, I'm worth more than that. I'm worth more than, if I take that job, the most I'll ever make in my entire life is $300,000 a year. And this is where we go back and we talk a lot about mindset. We talk about self-image. It's how you view yourself. And Jesse believes, because he believes that he's worth more than $250,000, he believes that he's worth more than 300 grand, then he's going to do whatever it takes to be able to make that kind of money. Where most people would have struggled and left to make that kind of money, he said, hell no, I'm worth way more than that. And that just kind of shows you exactly who he is and why he's having success, because he believes he's so much better than just that. So that's all I got to say. It's all you, Jesse. I'm excited to hear from you, buddy.
Okay, I was like, had this whole thought, and that kind of just hit home really hard. Great place to start me off, guys. Right now I'd like $250,000 in my pocket, but no, I gotta say, it really is, I think it comes down to belief, and that really just hit home, because I know that would have been so easy to just say, yes, let's go with the tried and true, let's stay comfortable. And there was something that that I've talked to some other leaders in the company about, and Nick was one of them, another rookie all-star, and he said, look, you already know that's comfortable, that's complacency, and that's the enemy getting in your head saying, just stay comfortable, stay complacent, instead of doing something that you were meant to do, and that you can totally break out with and do something bigger than you ever thought possible. So I want to kick off with a quote that I think has been a lot to me, and it kind of gets my head in the right place, and that is, it's from John Maxwell, and he says, your attitude determines your altitude. Okay, so when you face obstacles with a positive mindset, you turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So that stays at the forefront of my mind and everything, because there are obstacles along the way, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But I thank you guys for that introduction. I am Jesse Stamm, and I'm just at this point an agent like everybody else on this call. I've had some success so far, but in reality, it has not been just magical that one day just submit 100 grand and everything is, easy peasy. And in this journey, I've been really hard on myself at times. And then other times I think I should be harder on myself. But I think that comes because there are setbacks and there are triumphs every step of the way. And sometimes you just have to ask yourself, is this some big sign to me? Or is this just something that's happening and I've got to have some perspective around it? And while everyone was talking about different things, I started to have even more perspective about timeline. And I heard 7 months. And earlier today, I was thinking about this. It feels like I've been here for a lifetime. It feels like I've been here forever. It's been, years, when in reality, it's been 7 months. So I'm going to take you a little bit down my memory lane and kind of some of the things that have helped me, I think, find some success, and some of the things that kind of play in my mind that maybe it'll help you. So I started the course in July. So in the middle of July, I went on a really long trip for my past company. I was out of the country, and I started doing the course on my phone while I was traveling. I sold my first policy in September, kind of dipped my toe for a bit. I went full-time in February, partially by choice, partially because I was given an opportunity I could not refuse to leave the company I was with, because it was a startup and they decided to not start up. So I had a choice to make. And then I basically went insane in my head for a few months because I was in freak out mode. I was in fear mode and was like, how am I going to do this? I'm putting everything on the line. And that's when, I got offers. And when I got that offer that Mike referred to me, that was a direct sign. I don't want to get too crazy, but I felt like it was literally the devil whispering into my ear, because it was a voice of complacency saying, just do what you know, do what's secure. You'll be successful. Get your 9-to-5, your 401k, live your American dream, and all will be well. Don't be any more than you expect of yourself. Just go along. You're going to have a great life. It'll be fine. And that was whispering in my ear. And it was whispering loud, but I couldn't listen to it because I knew there was something more out there for me. So that was February. And I'll tell you a little bit later something that happened at conference too. But so that was February. March came around and it was rough. I was starting to feel a little nauseous. I was starting to get low on money. And then April rolled around, and April came and I submitted 100,000 in April. And then 3 weeks after that, 50,000 of that came back with a felony. So half that money. So I'm like, 100,000, I've cracked the code. Whoop, half of it gone. And so I could have gone into freak out mode, but what had got me here was this, instead of roller coaster, just kind of a general up and down, talking to my, my mentors in this business, and realizing, it's just a thing that happens. Is this a roadblock or a stepping stone? So I learned a couple things in that instance, and that's really what it's all about. So what I'm going to talk to you about tonight really is a few things. And what came to mind is an acronym, OARS, because sometimes you feel like you're traveling up, which creek without a paddle. Okay. And so OARS is what I'm going to give you an acronym, and that's obstacles, attitude, responsibility, and success. So it doesn't really mean anything other than it's just helped me remember kind of what I was on track to talk about in my mind. So obstacles. So I always look at obstacles as the way. You've got to embrace obstacles, because obstacles are the way. So if you're in the middle of an ocean, you don't have a sail, okay, that's pretty much, you got a pretty big obstacle right there. But if you got your oar, you can get some movement, okay? And obstacles, how you handle them is really what matters. So nobody wants there to be obstacles, right? We want everything to go really smoothly. And I think that that's kind of where I was in life for a long time. Things were just kind of going along. And that's not to say like everything was fine. I still had to like do the presentations for the CEO and go into freak out mode, or for the board, and things that just sounded like I was so important in my mind. Now, of course, I was always worried that what if I was going to lose the job, or what if something would happen, or what if you make the wrong move, because you're not in control of your own future. But I thought everything was smooth, even though in the moment it wasn't smooth. There's always obstacles. There's always fears if you let it be. So you have to think, okay, is this an obstacle, or is this just something for me to work through? And then when I get on the other side, things are going to be so much brighter. Okay. And so what I think about is, if you're not getting exactly what you want right now, if you're not the you want to be, then something has to sharpen you. Something has to get you stronger. And so like a sword, okay, like a sword, they put iron into a fire and then hammer the shit out of it, and then it gets cooled off, and then they do it over and over and over again, okay? They don't take that steel rod and put it into a field of roses, and then on a beach, and then whisper happy thoughts to it, and have unicorns dancing around. That's not what they do with iron. They put it in a fire, smash it to death with a hammer over and over again. And that's obstacles, okay? The cool thing is, you are very, very familiar with your biggest obstacle. Does anybody know what the biggest obstacle in their life is?
You.
Boom. Exactly. So you already know how to handle that one, because you get to be with that obstacle every day. And it's all about your perspective. And so for me, I had to realize that my perspective is what's determining my reality. When I think it's hard, it is. When I think it's easy, it is. When I think it's worth it, it is. When I think I'm not doing that, I won't. So all of those obstacles, really, it's about shifting your mindset and looking at them as stepping stones towards success. So there's a saying you probably heard of before. If not, it's one of my favorite, and that is a setback is a setup for a comeback. And I think sometimes we think there's setbacks. In reality, we have to flip our mind and to know that idea of why is this happening to me? Nothing's happening to you. It's something that's happening, and how you decide to handle it is what matters. What do you learn from that situation? So I had to shift my perspective and know that every one of these obstacles is an opportunity for me. Has anybody heard of getting 100 no's? But you have to get 100 no's, and then you want to always fight to get your 100 no's. Okay, I see Tanisha put in there. So I think it's an exercise, and I've heard of this before, that you want to ask 100 times and get to 100 no's before you quit. Okay, and I would even say you still don't quit. You just got to figure another path, but try for 100 no's. And that sounds anti like you would think. You want to get yeses, right? We all want yeses. Yeah, but you already know you want yeses. So let's think of a different angle in this. And the 100 no's, here's the thinking. If you go for 100 no's, will you ever get to 100? And I got to tell you, in this business, but also in a few other businesses that I've been in, we would use this analogy or this idea of 100 no's. Because here's the thing, no one ever gets to 100. One of two things happens. Either they quit or they get a yes. No one ever gets to 100, ever. Because at number 7, the going got too hard and we quit. Or at number 8, we got the yes. And then at number 9, we get another yes. But who knows where that's going to happen? Because I promise you, I think it could be called the 10 no's, because I don't think people get 10 no's before they quit, because we're so used to things being kind of soft or easy that we don't push through that what we think is pain, when in reality, there is more pain in the world than getting a no, right? And so what I had to think through is every time I got a no and it felt like it was a personal attack, in reality, it was just another no for me to pivot on, for me to look at, okay, this no was another stepping stone to figure out how to actually figure this thing out. And it was like wearing on my brain on a daily basis, because frankly, it's been a long time since I sucked at something so bad. Like, I mean, I sucked. It was rough. It was hard. And maybe I didn't suck that bad, but I thought I did. So I didn't get my chance enough times at bat, but it was feeling like, wow, I'm a loser. I have really lost all of my ability to function with selling. Like, I just don't get it anymore. Something happened. I've gone corporate. I mean, I just couldn't figure it out. So we had a lock-in. I don't even remember when it was, but it was in Tampa. We have a thread called the Tampa lock-in. I was there, and the whole lock-in, I had great success. I had super success at knowing exactly what you should never do as a life insurance agent. What you should never do is not sell anything, not be able to go on a phone call, not be able to figure anything out. That's what you should not do that, because I already did it for you. That was Tampa for me. Tampa was when I literally walked outside. I think a couple people know this. I know Mike and Frank know this, but I literally went outside during the Tampa lock-in and had to go for a walk a couple times because I had to call my wife and have like a come to Crystal talk, that's my wife's name, and be like, I don't know. I'm like, and she was just like, no, you're going to be okay. It's new, saying all the nice things. And then I had to do the next talk. Who do you call? Maybe not everybody can. I know not everybody has this, but who do you call when you really feel like the world is ending? I called my mother. Okay. I had to call my mom because I was literally like in meltdown mode. Like, what the beep have I done? I'm not getting it. Now, she did slap some sense into me, because if you have an Italian mom, well, it depends. Some Italian moms for their boys are like, you can do no wrong. Others have my mom who say, shut up, get back in there and get on the phone. That's what my mom said to me. Okay. Now, that wasn't like the worst thing that happened, because then I had like 1 or 2 or 3 policies, nothing huge. So I got to conference, and conference was like, This is going to be exciting. This is going to be great. I'm going to get it. I was getting fed and I was getting all this information. It was so awesome. And then I had heard, I'm not going to say names, but I'd heard this leader get up there and she talked about how amazing her team is. And they were doing these crazy great things. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. You know, she's got the, you know, the panacea for all success. She's got the answer. So we walked up to her. She was standing out on the, you know, the terrace area, and walked up, and some people are talking to her, picking her brain. And I had my chance. I was right there. So I was, you know, take your shot, ask the question. I'm like, how do, you know, is there like one tip or one top tip you could have? And the first thing out of her mouth was, how much you spend on leads? Now, mind you, I was not full-time at this point. I went full-time in February. So I'm not full-time. I'm specifically dabbling. I still have a full-time job. And I said $500-600. And the next thing she said to me was, just quit. You should quit now. Save your money. Stop wasting money. You'll never be successful. Okay, that was helpful. Now, here's the thing. I could have taken that and been like, wow, she just said she knows. She's the person who knows all these things and is this top leader and is doing amazing things. But I instead thought, okay. And that was it. That was the end of it. Now, obviously, it affected me a little bit more than that. But in reality, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know anything about me. I have I have thoughts in my mind of what I'm going to do. But I thought about that. And what it was for me was an analogy of like everything. When a customer says no, does that really mean no? Does it mean you suck? Does it mean you're a horrible agent? No, they just said no. When somebody stops their deal or something happens, does that mean you suck, you did something wrong? I don't know, maybe. Analyze it, figure it out, move on. What's next? Because there's always going to be obstacles, and they always can be flipped into opportunities. So that brings the next thing, A, for attitude. Your attitude determines your altitude, right? So you've got to have that attitude of, I can do this, okay? And I think that starts with gratitude, because we are in such a victim society where everything's so rough, everything's so hard, and we gauge our success and our worth by living through comparison. But the bottom line is, if you live in this country, you're better off than 90% of the world, maybe 95% of the world. I don't know anybody whose kids are working in mines digging for, rare metals, right? Most of the people I know, their kids are complaining about which iPhone model they have, okay? So we are absolutely blessed to be where we are. And with that, we still can have these attitudes of it's not fair or woe is me. And so what I had to look at is, am I truly grateful for everything I have? And what am I willing to do to keep it? What am I willing to do to do better? And that doesn't mean that everything's going to be easy. So Frank and I have this inside joke. Whenever I discover something I did wrong or learned a lesson from because I didn't know or have to figure it out, I say to Frank, I go, well, the good thing is that's lesson 1,291. Now start off at lesson 3, lesson 5, lesson 9, and I just keep adding crazy numbers to it because that's what it feels like. Sometimes there's lessons, but I could be annoyed and think, why didn't Frank tell me that? Why didn't Frank let me know? Why didn't Jamie tell me that? Why didn't Mike, why didn't anybody tell me this thing? I should have known. Yeah, well, like I would have remembered it. There's a lot of stuff to know. Like I would have listened. Like I would have been in the right headspace at that time. Like I would have, followed through. Who knows? But what I do know is now I know. Who cares if I didn't? Now I know. And so each time having that attitude of like, you know what? This is what we got to learn. Because if you have your long-term vision of where you want to be for yourself, everything along the way is just stuff that happens to get you there. Because if you know where you are now and you know where you will be, where you are in the future, everything that happens between is just stuff. It's just stuff for you to work through, to understand, to get better at. The biggest challenge that we have to think about is our attitude and what's between our two ears. That's our brain, okay? All of that what if and why didn't that work? All of that just brings you down, okay? So all you can do is learn, do better, reflect on it, and stop doing the crap you shouldn't and start doing the things you should have. So see that way forward. And that all comes from your attitude. And it's not about being Pollyanna, like, oh, everything's fine. Because no, sometimes it's not fine. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? What kind of action are you going to take? Okay. And I think that when we think in terms of that, we're almost like a light for others. Okay. And when you shine bright with looking forward for the future, people are attracted to that. When you look at your situation and say, you know what, we're going to make this work. That was a hot mess, but we're going to make it work. That is a light. Okay. And where does that come from? How do you get that? It's about taking, here's your R, taking radical responsibility. Radical responsibility. So there's this book I'm obsessed with at times. I don't know if it's showing. Can you see it in here? Okay. It's called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And what I love about that book is the first commitment you make is for radical responsibility. And what that means is everything you have and don't have is 100% because of you. If you don't have it, you chose not to have it. If you're not doing well at it, it's because you chose to not focus on it. Whatever the situation, it's you. And remember, if anyone can, anyone can. And if I don't, it's because I didn't. So when I started taking full ownership of my actions, my choices, and stopped being a victim, it was very empowering. So I'd love to say that I have 100% faith in myself all the time. I don't. Sometimes I feel like I have no idea how that's going to happen. I don't know. I sometimes say things like, throw out crazy numbers. And you know what? I get scared and I think, the heck am I thinking? What am I saying? But I just keep doing it when it comes to mind. It's almost like, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but it's almost like, Tourette's, where I just have this moment where I say, like, I'm going to do 100 grand this month, or maybe I'll do 150. Or I said to Frank right before we were on this, I said, maybe I should shoot for the cruise this month. I don't know where that comes from, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with it because it gets me excited, and maybe I'll fall short. But with faith and taking responsibility for what I can take responsibility for, I know that the outcome is going to be better than if I sell myself short. And I think with a kind of fixed mindset, I know that if I have faith, that I'll be a lot better off than if I didn't. What is it? The faith of a mustard seed, the size of a mustard seed, and God's got the rest. So what I look at is, if I just believe it, even if I don't know how it's going to happen, even if I don't know if it's the right thing, if I felt so inclined to be excited about it, then go for it. I'm excited right now about 150. It's the number that is like beating me in the head. 150, submit 150. I don't know if I'm going to quite hit that. 144, but maybe. But that's what I felt called to, like my brain was going there. Last week, I was freaking out on Monday because I hadn't hit 25K for the week. And my brain is registered 25K submit, 25K submit. And on Monday, I did not have, I had like, I don't know, 5 or 6. And I was like, how's this going to happen? And I just thought, should I lower my goal? Should I go back to 10? It's like, no. You don't know how, but like, keep going for it. Worst case scenario, you don't hit it. And what will that mean? Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It just means, okay, keep going, keep pushing. So that's kind of where my brain is all the time with this. Because
And you're
I
hard.
can't look at anything else. Now, I will say that sometimes we get hard on ourselves, and we start to then look for other ways, or other outs, I should say. Like, we look for a way out. Instead of looking within, we look for a way out. We'll say things like, my upline didn't take my call, they weren't there. And I had this happen the other day. A person called me, they were interviewing, and they're on another team. And on that team, they wanted to jump to my team. Okay. So this is a person who scheduled an interview with me because their upline is horrible, because their upline won't take their call, won't tell them what to do, won't do training for them, won't do mentorship calls for them. And so what I said was, it seems strange because we all want people to succeed. And especially in this business, your success is our success. And like, what are live dolls like? They didn't know. I said, what's the training camp like? They didn't know. I said, well, do they have like materials, like all the scripts and things? They didn't know. So do they have so most teams have like a YouTube channel, even these big orgs. You know what they said? They said they didn't know. I said, okay, well, have you reached out? I've reached out 100 times. Okay. Did you send them your goals? Did you take action and list out what your goals are and what you're doing and let them know what you're doing? They said no. So if we're not backing up what we say we want, why would anybody else want to lift us up when we can't even stand up? And so that's what I have to consistently think about for myself. If I'm putting in the effort and someone else comes to help me, awesome. But if they don't, so what? I'm still putting in the effort and I can still learn to do better, because we've already heard on this call, there have been people in previous weeks who just figured it out on their own. Now, I didn't figure it all on my own. I had lots of help along the way, people telling me all kinds of things, but it's because I was showing up to listen to it. So are you on live dials? Are you listening to all the trainings? Are you here every Monday night, or that thing came up? No. So tonight, after this, I normally wear a t-shirt during my day job, but tonight after this, I'm going out to dinner for my wife for our birthday dinner together, because last week I was at a lock-in. It was during her birthday and my birthday, and then we had stuff with the kids this week. So we're doing it tonight after this call, because I would never miss this call if humanly possible. Are you doing everything possible to succeed? Because we write our own story. We get to write our own story. So the last thing is system, okay? Trusting the process and working the system. I've absolutely discovered that to be successful, you got to follow the system that is put in place. And sometimes we think, well, it'd be better if they did this, and they should do that, and they should do this. You know what? That may be true. So perfect the one that's there, and then you can change everything. Perfect what's already in place, and then flip it. Because the energy you'll take to make any tweaks right now is getting you away from the thing that could help you actually learn how to be successful with what most of the people are already doing. So is there a better script? Maybe. Why don't you learn the one that's there now? Is there a better lead source? Maybe. Why don't you use the one that's there now? And when you get some money, you can try some new ones. Is there a better way of doing it? There might be. So why don't you learn the way there is now and then make some money, and you can then work on perfecting that when you actually paid the rent. And so each time, use the system. And one of the biggest aspects of the system is plugging in. So today we got a message. There were 13 people on live dials. And I'm thinking, this is Monday. Is nobody going out tomorrow for appointments? Is nobody making any money today? You know, why aren't more people on there? This call, and why don't we have 200 people in the call? And it's because a lot of times we get stuck in this place of, am I going to put that effort out there if I'm not getting it back? And that's where vision comes into play. That's where seeing where you are now and knowing where you will be, where you want to be, where you are in the future, and then knowing to do whatever it takes to get there. Because we have a system that leads you from point A to point B. Does it take you the straightest path? I don't know, because I don't know anybody who's tried the exact system the exact way. Most of the people I talk to are doing little tweaks. I haven't had anybody say I've done exactly everything the way it's written, the way it is there, and I've done every single thing. Most people are trying to evolve. Do it the way it's there first, and then you can evolve it. So I've got a couple takeaways for you. So there's 1, 2, 3. One is for the system in general, and then one is for IULs, because I know that's what it said on the post. So the 1, 2, 3 for the business, okay, getting set is your schedule. Your schedule is everything. I know you've heard it. This is nothing new. You're like, oh, he's saying schedule again. Yeah, there's a reason, right? There's a reason we're saying schedule. I have an agent who told me they worked yesterday and that they were doing something today. But the schedule is nothing like what we've talked about ever as far as running appointments. And so the question is, why? So work your schedule. And if you're part-time, I get it. I was there. But you got to have that schedule. So work with your mentor on a schedule and then stick to it, because it's funny. If we had a job, if you got a part-time job at Target, you show up on time, you leave on time, you do what you're told to do. And then we come here, we're late, we mix days, we change days. We're like our own worst boss to ourselves. We work harder for other people sometimes. So have that schedule. Leads, you cannot be afraid to spend money on leads. It is absolutely critical. So if there's one thing I did get when I got my handed to me at conference, when I was told to quit, unequivocally told to quit and basically go kill myself in the business, it was that, wow, all of that because of leads. That must be important. not to mention the other 500 times I'd heard it. And then the last one is you have to be engaged and you've got to get your at-bats. So your 100 at-bats, you need to be able to present 100 times. So until you do that, then you really don't know if you're good at this or not. You have no clue whether you can do this or can't. You might be a god. You might be $100,000, $150,000 producer, maybe. But if you haven't gotten to 100, you have no way of knowing. So if you quit before that, this wasn't right for you. And that's okay. Because if you quit before that, then you didn't even give it a good old college try, right? So you got to get 100 at-bats. Think of that as 100 no's, because I guarantee you will not get to probably 10. And what if that happens, you get to 20, you're like, Jesse lied. Yeah, we'll go to 100 and then let's talk, okay? And then let's talk about IULs. So we hear that so many people want to get into IULs. It seems like it's easy money. This is going to all of a sudden work out. And I can tell you, you know, getting a $10,000 or $20,000 sale does make a bit of a difference, right, in those numbers. But you want to be prepared to know what you're talking about, because they will smell it on you. If you don't know what you're talking about and you're just, talking nonsense about it to a customer, it will kind of come back to bite you in the butt. So you want to get, start learning some stuff. So one of them is this book. I would say flip through it or read it. Oh, can you see it? But I'm going to do better. I'm going to clip, thank you, Mike. I'm going to clip the audio and put that into the chat right now. And this is going to be the audio and the download of it. So this is a book that's good. There's another one, Becoming Your Own Banker. You can get that. It's by Nelson Nash. You can get that on the Amazons. So getting educated. Oh, and by the way, every single carrier has all of everything that you would want to know also. But when you're flipping through this, you should be dialing. Okay. Do not during your schedule read or listen to any of these things. Because if your schedule is to make money for what you're doing right now, instead of watching TikTok or watching TV at night, or while you're on the treadmill in the morning because you're working out early to get your day started, that's when it's time to do this. Because if you go into learn mode, you're not going to be in earn mode. Okay. And then start writing. Okay. Everybody knows someone who could use an IULE, because when you're with a final expense customer, if they're 90, maybe not, I won't have anything for them, but if they're 80, probably not, but you're going to come across somebody who's in their 50s or in their 30s or, 20, where an IULE would make sense. So research that one product, get familiar with it. Then once you have that client, start to understand how you would put that together, from how you would talk about it, the resources on Mutual's site, and start to get familiar with it. And then it's time to break out into more. And the best place I got to tell you is a kid's plan is so easy with an IUL. $100 a month for a kid, an IUL, when you got a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, is so easy to share that with a parent, that their child that they set up with an IUL for $100 a month is going to turn into that kid $70,000 in retirement income and give them all kinds of things open to them in their life. Okay, because they'll have access to borrow money for their first home, for a wedding, for a car, start a business, for a rental property, all at their fingertips, because mom and dad starting with $100. That's a super, super easy way to kind of get into it from a mindset and start learning how it's structured. So those are 3 things I would say. Start to learn, write an IULE, and get familiar with it for a kid at $100, just to get your feet wet, and then jump into bigger things. But you should do all of that while you're selling. Don't sit there and wait for success. You got to start making that success and then jump into this too. And so with that, I'm going to get my oar, stop paddling up, what creek, and go with the flow. So that's
awesome. Jesse, appreciate the great call tonight. We'll see everyone next Monday. Make sure you never miss a Monday night meeting. Jesse, thanks, man. Have a good one.